15:00, 26 червня 2023 року. Ми з вами перебуваємо на міжнародних науково-педагогічних підвищених стажуваннях, які проводяться Куявським університетом в місті Влоцлавеку, спільно з Центром українсько-європейського наукового співробітництва, який я сьогодні тут представляю в якості директора, Віхляєв Михайло, доктор наук, професор. Ми співпрацюємо з Куявським університетом на протязі останніх вже 5 років. Це наші надійні партнери, які постійно нас підтримують, в тому числі і підтримували в складний 22-й рік, і продовжують підтримувати під час військових дій в 23-му році. Я щиро вдячний всім учасникам стажування, які знайшли можливість прийняти участь у нашому заході. Дуже радий, що ми змогли вас зацікавити, і впевнений, що ви отримуєте задоволення від сьогоднішньої лекції та необхідні подальші бонуси для просування в напрямку отримання вченого звання доцента, старшого дослідника та професора. Сьогодні з вами буде працювати наш надійний партнер, досвідчений в Польщі дослідник в галузі освіти дорослих та електронного навчання, пані Joanna Skiba. Вона буде викладати лекцію на тему «Ми всі особливі. Інклюзія та підтримка учнів з особливими потребами в класі та поза ним». Joanna, please speak.
Good afternoon. We are very honored to be able to meet today with you and speak on the topic which is very broad and has many facets, many areas have to be discussed when we look at the learners of special needs, the dynamics of the classroom and the strategies to be employed. As the main topic says, we are all equal, and the inclusion of the learners with special needs has to be studied today. I would like to first concentrate on what we do here at Kуявського University in Poland. Last year, we were granted very special funding, the funding from the National Center of Research, and this amounted to about 4 million zlotys, which is around almost 1 million euro. We were granted to facilitate the system of education that we offer to our students with disabilities. The program, the project is called the Open University, and it offers support on many different levels. So first I would like to talk about this specific project. Then I would like to give you some more very specific advice on how to deal with learners with special needs, how to foster this relation at university. And then coming to conclusions, I would like to give you some more information on the teachers, how they should manage the situation. So, starting with our project, as I want to concentrate on this because it's something that I know very well from my own everyday work, because I'm also part of this project. We offer support on many different levels. So we support the educational consultants who can offer the diagnostic interviews to our students with disabilities. They offer recognition of possible special educational needs and problems and barriers. They offer teaching tips for academic teachers. There is also quite a lot of technical support, and this technical support for our disabled students includes the rental of digital and electronic equipment to assist specific disabilities. technical support and assistance in sign language and in translating devices, creating specialist teaching infrastructure, transport for students in wheelchairs, and also making changes in the construction of our buildings, like making additional lifts for wheelchairs available. There is also an option for the financial support. So there are monthly scholarships for students with disabilities are offered. And this is not only part of our project, but the monthly scholarships for students with disabilities are offered by our state on a monthly basis. There is also the covering of costs of individual organization of studies and support of study assistants. So if we need to transport them, there is a lecture and laboratory participation assistance, like taking notes or practical exercises assistance. There is quite a lot of organizational support. It's adjusting exams to perception abilities of our students with special needs and specialized physical education and specialized foreign language classes, which also mean that most of the projects, like the teaching, can be done online. This is not only because of the COVID-19 situation, which we had 3 years ago, but also it's part of the facilitation for our students with special needs to let them study from home. There is quite a lot of psychological support, both for academic teachers and students. The support for those who are in crisis and in emergency situations, those who require life and educational coaching, or there are some psychological workshops. There is also the fostering of self-awareness, of learning processes, social and intellectual development. There is career guidance for those students who need, and workshops and meetings with employers or entrepreneurs from the local market. On the lighter side, there is some kind of integration meetings and events and festivals. So it's quite a lot is included in this project. It's a flagship project of our university now. And as I said, it is strongly financed by the Polish government, and therefore it's really successful, and both sides are engaged. So not only the students with disabilities, but all teachers. I also took part in some of the psychological lectures, which are part of this project, and they were really helpful. So that's what we do, like on everyday basis, and that's how I feel. I can honestly say that our university is ready to accept and integrate the people who need help and assistance because of the disabilities. Looking into more practical parts, and those pieces of advice may be useful for anyone, and they are not only part of the project, but I think they are very sensible. It's very sensible reasoning that we can assist the students or pupils if there is that we see the need, because we see there is this disability. So what can we do? This is a lecture, I will just point those issues one by one. I think we should teach at the students' instructional level. We should try to sequence information from simple to complex information. Also, we should try to maintain high levels of student success. So we all know as teachers that it's easy to fail a student because we can always create a test or a quiz, which is hard to pass. But I think we should, of course, there are standards we have to follow, but having this at the back of our minds that we need to assist them, I think having this positive feedback is very important for all the students. When our disabled students work at a slower pace, we should adjust the workload. We should provide time extensions, larger time extensions for tests and for larger projects. Our work and the students' workload should be divided into some smaller sections, into some chunks. A lot of observation should be carried out. Also, a combination of direct instruction and cognitive strategy instruction should be employed. We should use a highly sequenced format of immediate feedback. So when the student gets our response in every situation, this is like following a teaching sequence, like the student responds and gets the answer from us. So this is really a controlled setting. So when we work in the controlled setting like that, it's easy to teach this situation and also maybe follow up and reteach when there is the need for this. We should try to use quite a lot of the visual aids that the students may find useful. Also teach the students to listen to more information. Activate some background knowledge, so make references to other areas of science. If we are teaching, let's say, history, it's easy to make a connection into a language, into sociology, into economics, because all of these are interrelated. So making those interrelations, I think, is a part of our success. We should try to use quite a lot of devices, especially now. It's easy and it's they are available. They are at our hands, like the dictation software, speech synthesizers, audiobooks. There is quite a lot of information material available on the internet. So why not use it? Why not play a film from the YouTube, or why not play something from Spotify, which I do quite a lot when I teach at MBA courses, and I also have meetings with some other international students. I do quite a lot of listening. We should try to have some practice programs for the extended practice, like in games, use drama, music, and arts. All of these areas we've been discussing during my past lectures, as I now remember. So there was a lecture on the internet sources, there was a lecture on drama, music, and art as well. So I think all of these can be followed back. So when we lecture to our students, I think it's good idea to stop and make some kind of work in pairs, for example. So this may test the student attention, and this may also be like a nice break into a pattern of, just following, listening, which is sometimes unbearable if they have some limitations. So using analogies, metaphors, examples from real life, which may make this easier for them to relate to. For mathematics, we should have quite a lot of pictures, presentations, For larger projects, I guess they should be divided into some smaller steps with a lot of feedback and also with, let's say, video, maybe performance assessments. So there are a lot of very practical ideas, and I also think with our experience that we get when we teach, I think we all have our tricks as teachers, don't we? We know how to keep attention of our students, but it's important to consider this, that the students with limitations may require more attention, and they may require more assistance. So helping children, because children are our future students, helping children succeed at school is our task. So most instruction at home can be adapted to accommodate the needs of the students with learning disabilities. Those disabilities may be dyslexia and other learning problems, which are very frequent now. These strategies can be used to modify instruction in most subject areas. They may improve the students' comprehension and the quality of their work. And what can we do? The teachers should develop some kind of a scoring guide, and we can share it with the students so that the students know how they are going to be assessed. This has to be clear, this has to be planned, and it cannot be left to happen without our control. We should never use a student's work as a public example of poor work. So this is really humiliation. We shouldn't do that in the classroom or even also at home. So we should not set bad examples from anyone's work. We should clearly outline the instructions. So the instructions have to be absolutely clear. The lessons should include specific and step-by-step instructions, and there should be no room for any chaos. We should create models of quality work that students can see and analyze. We also should define the classroom expectations. So there is this feedback that I was referring to. We should post the expectations, like you can use Facebook group and post them there, or post them in our classroom, and use those classroom expectations as a basis of all interactions and class projects. We should have our students repeat back the instructions. This is like not only an oral activity for the students, but this is to avoid any misunderstanding. It may help correct any miscommunication before actually the students start working. We should always check back with the student, like, as I said, make them repeat what they have understood. It can be done also at academic levels. Why not? Because that's how I even feel with my adult students sometimes, that they have to be checked twice, whether they are following what is happening in the class or not. We should also ourselves, as teachers, set the stage for learning, tell our pupils, our students, why the material is important, what the learning goals are, and what are the quality standards that we are aiming at. So it's quite a lot of should on the side of the teacher. As we all know, this is we are the responsible ones in the classrooms, in the academic halls. So there is always this list, which is quite heavy for on the side of academic performers. Now a few words about the types of disabilities, because the limitations are endless, really. some disabilities can be temporary, like for example, a broken leg. Some may be relapsing, some may be remitting. The types of disabilities may include situations like hearing loss, low vision or blindness, learning disabilities such as attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, the ADHD, the dyslexia, dyscalculia, mobility disabilities, chronic health disorders like epilepsy, cancer, diabetes, migraine headaches, or multiple sclerosis. There are also psychological and psychiatric disabilities. They may be mood, anxiety, and depressive disorders like the post-traumatic stress disorder. There may be another, which is Asperger's disorder or autism spectrum disorders, or traumatic brain injury. So the list is quite long, and I think it's not complete. With some of them, we may, like dyslexia, dyscalculia, ADHD, some older teachers say, okay, this is the invention of modern times, and in the past the students didn't have such limitations. Well, they did have in the past, but there was no research done, so therefore they appear as with some extra phrasing and branding, but the problem doesn't disappear. So the problems are there. I know because some of my colleague teachers teach in those mixed ability or mixed sensory groups, especially in primary and secondary schools in my city. And they always say it's a challenge. It's a challenge because we don't get a whole classroom of students who are all dyslexic. We may get a classroom of 25 students, and 3 of them will be dyslexic or will have dyscalculia. So the question is how to follow this type of classroom if we have just 1, 2, or 3 students with disabilities. This is this integration of disabled people into a normal system of school education is quite a modern invention in Poland. I think it started about 10 years ago, so it's pretty new for education. And there has been a lot of talk on this, whether we should continue teaching in that way, whether we should mix disabled students with the regular students in standard classrooms. Of course, the heavy disabilities make this impossible to make the mixture of students in the normal regular school or university. But there is this tendency of creating 2 or maybe 3 classrooms in a larger school or university where all these disabilities appear. So, well, I think it's always a challenge for the teachers. The students may have those disabilities which are more or less apparent. So sometimes we may even not know that the student has epilepsy until this happens, or the student may suffer from the chronic pain disorder, and we don't know until something like an incident arises. So these are hidden situations. I remember once I had a student who had a mental disease, which was not active until he went to study in Scotland. He went there for 1 term, and the stress that he got from being away from home, from his family and university, activated the mental disease. And after like 3 or 5 days when he was there, got an urgent phone call in the middle of the night that he's doing some kind of, really badly mannered behavior, and he had to go into a mental hospital in Scotland. So after that, I just next day I called his mother and we talked, and she just relieved that he stopped taking some serious medication before going to Scotland, and nobody at university was informed that he's suffering from it. So the thing we could do was to control his stay in this medical institution in Scotland, and I think it took about 3 or 4 months before he got back to Poland to study. So sometimes we are not even aware that the problem exists until something happens, and so it may be just triggered by a situation. So there, as you see, there is a whole spectrum of problems and a whole spectrum of situations which, as in our life, are not expected, and somehow we are tested by students. We are tested by those situations, and we now more or less know how to behave. But of course, we cannot predict anything at like 100%. As we as teachers or heads of academic units should employ some strategies which may promote our work and also help the teachers to deal with those situations on an everyday basis. So what are the strategies? We can promote the development of many cognitive skills through active participation of our students. We can focus on establishing a recognized means of communication, and we have to be consistent on this, to reinforce the students' will and build on this also with the family and the friends. I think it's also more important for the pupils, for younger audience. So when the child is using objects to communicate, we should try to stick to this manner of communication, because if we change the phrasing and that we incorporate, then this change may be the trigger of stress. Vocabulary levels, they should be familiar to the child, to the student. And they should be presented in a way that is clear and consistent. So use the same terms when we refer to settings. We should, they may be sometimes small differences to students, but they are really important because the formal language skills may not be developed. We should provide the exposure to a wide variety of literacy materials, using real objects and adaptations to make those accessible to the students. Also create routines that sequence events with a clear beginning, middle, and ending. It's like a routine, like tell them what you're going to tell them, and tell them what you have told them. These are the 3 basic rules that I also employ when I teach at any level, not only the disabled students, but anyone. So there's quite a lot of variety and quite a lot of quite many options on dealing with strategies, and also I think we are able to create our own when we can find the right time and the resources. The classroom dynamics, it's another part of what I would like to concentrate on. So when we enter the classroom, we have some kind of expectations. What are the norms cultivated by the communities and cultures? And in many social spaces shared by people with identities and backgrounds, this is the effort to ensure that there is the equity and inclusion is based on guiding principles. Especially now, I experience this every day because since March this year, we have 71 African students at our university which is a very big project for us. They are not disabled in any way, but they are just creating different dynamics of work because they are from countries like Kenya, Zimbabwe. They are very far from our culture mentally, and we have to create a lot of background in our university, and we are facing another 100 coming in October to study nursing, physiotherapy, and public administration. We are happy about this, but this requires a lot of adjustments. So we manifest the changes. We also talk to them. We also want to hear what they want to experience, but they are very different identities, and they are like a cross-cultural experience, a multicultural experience. So we use a lot of academic options that we have, but there is always culture which is at the back because we are born with it. For example, when I tell them the meeting starts at 11, and now I have learned after all these months, they will never be there at 11. They will appear at 11:30 or even 12 because time for them runs in a different manner. You know what I mean? We in Europe are very punctual, most of us. Of course, it's a personal aspect, but they are Africans, they have different attitudes. So now I have learned this, and the trick that I use is like the meeting starts at 11, so I tell them to come 10:30. So they are trying their best to be present in the classrooms, but I'm just using a trick. I don't know. I'm not lying to them, maybe in a way, but I want to arrange two things. I want to have my meeting at a given time, and I want them to be present and not to wait for anybody for 1 hour. So it's quite a lot of dynamics that I use referring to this project, and it's, believe me, it's a huge thing, and it's also a huge achievement for university. But it's like sometimes I feel it's turning our lives upside down because of the differences. But anyway, we are happy about that. So it also shows the inequalities in the society, because the inequalities which are inherited or maybe replicated, they may be seen in the classroom dynamics or in active work that is required from the students. And then individual may feel more or less empowered in the classroom. It really depends on the intersection of roles and identities that are there for the student at a given moment. So these are the instructors' roles to build awareness around this social inequality, because what I see in the African students, it's like kind of a social inequality in a way, because they were not equipped with some skills in their home countries, which doesn't mean they are worse, this means they are just different, and we have to just accept this. So acknowledging this, that the students have the right to be different, and realizing that the students are not made in a factory, that they are like robots, that they will do all of them what we tell them. Acknowledging the situation will help us work on everyday basis. It's also the unconscious bias that we have somehow feeling that we are prejudiced to somebody or something or a situation. So we have to analyze this. What are we biased to? What are we prejudiced about? What we expect and what goes in a completely different manner, that we are not used to that and we are not expecting this. And as we know, sometimes teaching in the classroom is like being in a battlefield. So we cannot assume that the students will just sit and listen. Those who have Any kind of disorders will not just sit and listen. They will be disruptive. They will be spoiling our hierarchy of our plan and our university work. So we cannot assume that every teaching class will be the same, because it will not. Even if we are teaching the same material, when we go into the next class after one, the second class will be completely different because of the classroom dynamics. So we have to review and prepare this, like not only the syllabus, because the syllabus is one part, but also the syllabus and our mentality for diversity, for equity, inclusivity, and accessibility. So let me repeat the four phrases which are important: diversity, equity, inclusivity, and accessibility, which means that we have to be prepared for work at different levels with different people, and we have to try to include everyone and give access to our students on many different levels. There are many reports on bias-related incidents happening at universities. Is it either racist or it's because of the disabilities that the student may represent? I think you also have such cases in your country, or you have heard of others. Because this is human factor behind it. For example, the Black and Asian students experience quite a lot of distress in the face of anti-Black and pro-Asian stereotypes which exist in the STEM fields, like teaching the technical, mathematical subjects. So we tend to say, okay, the African students are not talented in that, in the area of, mathematics, physics, or technical subjects, but the Asians are. Is this true? Well, I don't know. I'm not an expert to give a final conclusion on this, but I would say this is kind of prejudice which we are living with, and the moment we see a student like an African student, and we see that he or she has problems with let's say physics, we feel, okay, this is normal because that's how they are. I don't think that's normal. I think it's our attitude, and I think the way we see them and we perceive a student from the beginning, from when he or she is a pupil entering, like 7-year-old child who enters school, we should not put them into a frame. When we put them into frames, there we are with the problems that we face every day. How to get out of this, like the role play system? I think we should concentrate on two things. What is well-being and happiness at school? If we can ask and answer this, are our students happy with us as teachers? Do you think we offer them the well-being conditions at universities to grow? So what is this well-being? Well-being describes a state of this overall mental and physical health, the strength, the resilience and fitness to function well at work and personally. It was brought into public in the early, about 2011, 2012. And this is an alternative to happiness. So you may ask, what is the difference? When is the well-being and when we talk about happiness? Happiness, I think, is more active. It's like an emotion. This is how I feel now. Like if I feel happy now at this moment of speaking. And this is highly reactive. If you think about yourselves being happy, so happiness is like you experience moments of being happy. And, well, of course, as one of my colleague professors says, can you imagine being happy all the time? It's unbearable. It's impossible. So, of course, This is just like a kind of a joke on a lighter note, but I would say yes, I cannot imagine being happy all the time. But well-being is something which may be based on happiness, but it's more stable. It's like a ground. It's somehow it's an atmosphere. It's the background, and the happiness will be a response to the stimuli. Well-being helps cause our success and good functioning, and happiness, I would say, is caused by all of these factors. On the other hand, and the counterpart is the negative aspect of stress, when we feel overloaded with information and lots of messages we get, our phones calling all the time, when we experience physical symptoms like shallow breathing, racing heart, sweatiness, nausea, even vomiting. These are all signs of heavy stress, which may be related to many school and university situations. So I would say these are extreme examples. But when the student, or even us, when we concentrate more on the discomfort than the performance, then we all may experience all of these feelings at once. Creating a school which offers well-being to students is important. When students feel safe, when they feel valued and respected, when they are actively, meaningfully engaged in the academic activities, when they have positive self-esteem, and they have supportive relations with the teachers and colleagues. That's, I think, the base for being happy. When they feel a sense of belonging to the classroom, to the academy, the university. So then they may feel happy and satisfied with the lives at school. Well, don't ask me how to achieve this, because it's, I think, the topic for another lecture. So maybe after the holidays we can discuss it. There are many public organizations which are safeguarding those aspects. One of them is the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, the OECD, and they do quite a lot of research which underlines and studies school bullying, that they state it has devastating consequences on learners' health and academic achievement. Not only the ones that are disabled, but on all students. And even especially the COVID-19 pandemic had made quite a lot of damage to pupils who suffered from the reduced well-being and motivation. So I would say, as we spend quite a lot of time in schools, schools are the key to promotion of mental health and well-being among young people. And children and young people spend a considerable amount of time at schools during a very critical period of their lives. So this is the development of their personalities, and also all social emotional competences are growing at that time. And the research indicates that incorporating social emotional learning and mental health and well-being may be the effective way to support the psychological well-being of children and young people. And this is more in line with the very holistic vision of education, which recognizes that children and all students need a balanced set of cognitive, social, and emotional competences to achieve the positive outcomes. And I think it's true for all of us. It's true for teachers, not only the students, but and not only for the disabled students, but for, as I said at the beginning, we are all equal. As at the beginning I stated that there are so many should on the should points on the arms of the teachers, I would like to conclude with the option: what should the teachers do to protect themselves? So what kind of strategies may the teachers use? Because it's quite a lot of burden on our side. I think we have to be aware of the changes of the education in the uncertain times like we have now facing at the very moment. We have to be good communicators with high emotional intelligence. We should try to have very positive views of ourselves, but how to achieve all of us. Now I'm also entering into should, section. So we should do this and that. So when we are in trouble, it's easy, I think, now to seek support, to have going to some kind of trainings, like coaching sessions or career development programs. Also talk with other teachers at our universities, how they behave in the situations. If we need to, why not take a break, go on holiday, I don't know, use, re-energize in a way, or try to relax, use meditation techniques, because we are all human beings, and as I always say, education is a human business. It's human. There are many human factors behind it, and it's impossible just to demand from ourselves and not to see that we are riding the same boat in a way. We are and we are reading the same page, as I may say, using a metaphor. As I would say, we should not treat classrooms as battlefields. We should treat them as human business, and it has to be done on that level of human interactions. Thank you very much for being today with me, and I hope you enjoyed my reflections on this, and I wish you all the best. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Joanna. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.